Rod, I had my primetime shades ready. They were sitting right next to me. They were right next. They were ready. They were ready for me to open this show.
You ready to put them on and
wearing the
style
Dion
and
shades,
profile.
and it didn't happen. And it
Just
for
wasn't
whatever
to be.
reason, it didn't happen. We'll talk about it. But I did have to after that game. I have a drink with me because
Yeah.
there was a lot of emotion going on. Like my wife and I were kind of having a fun little game going because you're just sitting there watching the game, and I am not someone who stands up and cheers and throws my phone. I just sit there and I watch and I kind of internalize. My heart rate got up to 113 sitting down watching this game, and I was like, wow, just the drama of it all. Before, we're gonna get to the X's and O's piece and the strategies and the places where maybe Shanahan will kind of be up all night wondering if we'll go through that stuff in a little bit, but just emotionally, I want to be with the people right now because that was a roller coaster of a football game, and one in which I'm guessing that most 49er fans thought had one or two things gone a different way. Maybe we win that game, by double-digit points. But it didn't, and we said this from the beginning. The reason why you didn't want to play the Chiefs is because you did not want to play against the other dude. You didn't want to play against Pat Mahomes, and you didn't want to play against Andy Reid creating opportunities for Pat Mahomes. And that is what the game came down to. Both of our sort of worst nightmares were happening there in the end, what we talked about yesterday. But first off, I want to do a check-in with you. Check in and let me know, where are you emotionally right now? Are you upset? Are you relieved? Are you frustrated? Like where are you? Because you're out there in the mix with all the people in Vegas.
Honestly, I'm numb. I really am numb because and it was weird. I even put that in the Discord that, I felt like I should have been. I felt like Shelvin. I felt like I should have been happier at 10-0.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. I was so uncomfortable. And when we got to halftime, it was like I didn't take my heart rate, but I was like fucking tired. Excuse my language. I was tired. It was like it was like I could feel the stress like in my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I was really a ball of tension. And I closed my eyes at halftime. I didn't watch the show. I needed to rest, but we did a lot of good things. The defense really was the best, especially our front was the best that it had been since early in the season. And it was like, you talked about our keys to victory. For us, for me, that was one of them.
Yeah.
We really had the ball. And early on, even Chase Young was getting plays. Now, as the half wore on, people started to become who they were, and they ended up having to move Armstead to end on some plays, and he was balling.
Yeah.
So that was like a big check mark. The $100 million front, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
Hargrave was making plays. Kinlaw even made a play. They were doing what they needed to do. So, but what was my fear? One of my fears was that you ultimately are who you are. And as the game wore on, we started to see the defensive line that played the last 4 weeks. It was almost like it was inevitable. I wasn't wishing it, but when they showed up, I wasn't surprised. Similarly with Brock, he came out playing really, really well. But then that first drive of the third quarter, it was like, here we go. And it was in it. I don't even blame him. Spags did a really good job of kind of dictating what it is we were going to do. And people I was so frustrated when people talking about, well, you need to run the ball. You know, bro, if you just stop the thing and then count how many people are at the line of scrimmage, at on or right around the line of scrimmage. There's, I mean, especially if you've got our offensive line, there's no way you're running in the 9 and 10 man boxes. We have to. It was like everybody I was watching the game said, "Look, Spags has declared that Brock Purdy is going to have to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to make some throws to get them out of that heavy box." And for tons of reasons, which I guess we'll get into later, he just didn't. We didn't. He didn't. Kyle didn't. We didn't. I mean, at this point, I'm not pointing fingers or blaming anybody because overall, you ask how I'm feeling. I'm numb now, but it's not like I'm like super disappointed in them. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Hoped we'd win, and I thought we would win, and I think we could have won. I'm not even gonna. Well, I might shit on Jake Moody a little bit, but I really don't. You know, I kind of feel for them because I think they could have won it. It was right there, but then Jordan got the ball, and that was kind of it. I mean,
so I want to talk about the run thing because this is something that we talked about yesterday, which was my worst nightmare. In that the defensive strategy was going to try and force the Niners out of what they love to do in their comfort zones. And after the first half, that it looks like exactly what they did. And like you said, they stacked the line. They made it look like the Niners should not run at this opportunity. And like I said, Kyle is going to see that and go, "Oh man, we're going to be able to pick these dudes apart downfield," right?
there's 2 and 3 DBs back there. We should be able to, eat.
And so
But
I that was my number one worry about this game was Kyle was going to go, "Okay, Brock can win this, and we're going to put it in his hands, and we're going to give him opportunities." The problem with that is that if we don't run the ball, then you still have all those guys pretty close to the line of scrimmage. And what is Brock's biggest problem this entire season? Well, it's getting the ball batted. It's maybe throwing a half second before he wants. And then that's where the kind of the chaos ensues. Now, he didn't throw a pick. There were a couple passes that, I think we were pretty afraid of that might have gotten intercepted. So to his credit, he threw the ball away when he needed to throw it away. He made safe throws so that they weren't turnovers. He was running out of the pocket to try and evade sacks. I don't even know if he got sacked in the entire game. But so he was very aware of that. But at the same time, after those first two drives in the third quarter, Shanahan was almost like, we just have to try running the ball. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, McCaffrey, easy 5 yards. And then it's like, oh, McCaffrey, easy 4 yards. And I was like, man, like, we can do it even against that stacked line. We know that Kansas City was not a great run defense. And for those two, it was only 2 possessions. But in those 2 possessions, what you just said, Spags psyched Shanahan out of what they do best. Now, if you look at the numbers, CMC got the ball a lot. He had 10 catches. So he touched the ball like over 25 times. So it's not that we did not give him the opportunities. He did get them. But I think what had happened in that third quarter is you're trying to turn the tide there, and you're trying to swing the clock more towards the Chiefs. And the Niners had a 3 and out and a 3 and out. And it's like, okay, like now we have to give the ball to this dude who is a second half quarterback. And that swung a lot of the momentum. There were still opportunities for us to win. But those 2 possessions where Kyle abandoned the run, probably correctly, abandon the run because of what he was seeing on the other side. But at the same time, I do think that was Spags going like, this is a chess game, and I'm going to, I am showing everything right now, and let's see what you can do against it. And they just couldn't succeed for whatever reason against it. I don't know if it was the receivers or the routes or whatever, but those guys were also not getting open at the same time.
That's true. That is a very good point. And I don't like to play the what if game, but even after all of that being said, there were still 2 or 3 throws that Brock made great throws, but Chris Jones was just there
Monster.
just enough
Monster.
to it just, and it just wasn't to be, like that. The last one was the dagger, the one where Juwan Jennings just runs a crazy good route and he's wide open to win the game, and Brock just doesn't have time.
Here's a question for you, because again, we're talking about this strategy of Spags 3rd and 4, and this is for ball game, right? This is if the Niners score a touchdown, Kansas City has to score a touchdown to just tie the game, to extend the game. So you're forcing them to go 75 yards down the field to just tie the game.
And like Romo said, that's just it's a completely it changes the game.
Yes,
the difference between having the field goal and all you got to do is get in the field goal range, and that set of play calls against knowing that you have to go the distance.
So it's 3rd and 4. I just said aloud to everybody in the room, like, they're bringing heat. I hope we have the route that exposes wherever these blitzes are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, I'm sure Shanahan could explain the play that he put in to escape that moment for the offense to go, okay, we know the blitz is coming. They're going to bring pressure here, and here's our outlet. And like you said, Jennings got off and he made the cut and he was open, but Brock thought he was going up instead of just out, and Brock overthrew him. Now, not to say that Pat Mahomes is going to not make that play. Like, I'm sure that is a play that he has made and he's comfortable making, and that's why he's got 3 titles. Brock being in that moment, first Super Bowl, young QB. It's not like Jennings is a 10-year vet either. So it is an opportunity for them to show that they can that they have an answer to this blitz. And it just didn't work out in their end. And that's like John Madden, I'm sure he's not the first person to say this, but he used to say like football is a game of inches. And it was, if Brock can hang out for a third of a second longer, a half of a second longer, and he could see Jennings's cut and make that throw instead of having to rush it, then it's a different ball game. But the half of a second is all it took for them to not be able to counter that pressure. And that's football. Like, that is what we watch every week. It is such a fast game these days. Like, I remember watching, if you go back and watch games in like the mid 80s and the early 90s, it is not that fast. It is not as fast as it is today. Now, there are rules adjustments and stuff as to why, but the athletes are tons better. And it's almost like the field is like almost too small for the athleticism in football these days, but it's just that small time. And that was like the difference in the game. Because if they hit that play, then maybe we're talking touchdown, but they didn't. Spags brought the pressure. Jones was right there in Brock's face, and he had to get rid of it too early. Like, that's the ball game right there. And that's what makes football the most popular sport in America. I don't know how many people they're going to have as far as rated to watch this game. But I saw I'd actually made a prediction with Matt Bellany from Puck News early in the week, and I said 119.1 million is going to be the number. For an overtime game where it was so close in the fourth quarter, they're blowing away that number. This is going to be there's that number is going to be in the mid 120 millions because of how dramatic that game was. But like, this is why, I mean, you can be frustrated if you want. It should be. If you have been watching this team all year long, there is frustration there. Man, if they could have only done this, if they could have only done that. But at the end of the day, I can point to it and go, that's the play. And you're right there and you're in it and it's win or lose. And they didn't make the play. And I am so much more content with that game, with this game, than 31-20 4 years ago, where
no question.
It felt that
question.
felt unreachable the second they took the lead. That felt like, okay, ball game. Our guys are just done. This one, these are fighting until the very. They played 5 quarters of football tonight.
Yeah,
they're fighting.
Yeah.
So I'm mad. I'm frustrated. I'm sad, but I'm not like they were there. It was there to win.
I was gutted the last time. It doesn't, like I say, I'm kind of numb. But it's not that. It's not it. That last one was the 2019 one was a rough one.
Like helpless. Really, you just felt helpless. Like you're like, there's nothing we can do to win this game.
Yeah. But I didn't feel that way. I really thought that, I don't know if I thought. I'm not going to go that far, but I was really rooting for Brock to just make one play. If you just make one play for us, we can win this thing. Because that gets the pressure off of the offensive line. Maybe it opens up something in the run game, but maybe not. Maybe Spags is just going to keep on with that front and make sure. My brother kept talking about how, and it was uncanny the way he was calling it. He was like, it's like 5 step, and then hitch, and then throw, or hitch and go. And it was just crazy that, like you said, at a certain point, the pressure wasn't awful, but there just clearly was nobody open for him to throw the ball to, which is good on Kansas City. And I don't know the ins and outs of if it was something that we weren't doing or if it was just to credit the coverage. It's hard to know until we see the all 22.
And can I give them credit for another thing, which is when you stack the line like that, you take away one of the Niners' best players in George Kittle because he's got to block.
Kittle has to block.
He's got to block. You take away a lot of the power or a lot of the what Brandon Ayuk is good at, what Debo is good at, which is a lot of the underneath stuff because they don't really have an outside guy. They have Danny Gray sitting there on the IR somewhere, just going like, man, if they would have just put me in, I could have stretched that field. But they don't have that guy, right?
Uncle Rico. He's Uncle Rico.
And that is one thing that they probably feel after this game that they do need to add is somebody who can go deep. Because JJ is great on 3rd and 8. Like that, he's like one of the best guys that they've ever had as that safety valve. And JJ showed out today. He was awesome. Had to trick play.
He made himself a lot of money as a free agent.
Had that red hair. You see the red hair.
Somebody's going to pay him a lot of money, and good for him. But yeah, that is going to be. We've got a bunch of months to get into that, but that is going to be one of the areas. What the wide receiver room looks like next year is going to be very interesting among just about every other position group. We've got for a team that was as good as we were, we've got a lot of question marks moving forward. So yeah, it was nice to see Juwan have the game he did. Well, the playoffs that he did,
Yeah.
he really showed out all 3 games.
What did you think about the referees basically swallowing the whistle in the fourth quarter and in overtime? They were like, y'all can hold in both teams, like you even said in the Discord.
Mhm.
Y'all can hold. I think the Chiefs did get one defensive holding penalty, which extended a drive for the Niners. And there was,
Yep.
I think Ayuk got called for a false start. But other than that, it's like these guys that they were just letting these dudes play.
And I love that. I because like I said in the Discord, you could call holding on every play. And what I didn't want, I'm glad that fourth quarter didn't turn into was a flag fest.
Yeah.
I know always whatever team loses is going to be crying about
Oh yeah.
what didn't get called,
There's
I mean,
already Twitter videos that are up right now circling all the times that Bosa got held. I am sure about that.
But what we don't do is look at all the times that Trent gets away with holding and McKivitz gets away with
You know
holding.
what? Trent had
And
a
it
rough
just don't
start today. Trent had he
he
had a
had
holding and a false
I
start in the very beginning of the
I
game.
can't ever remember him having back-to-back penalties like
Yeah.
that. That was very, very un-Trent like. But yeah, it was
I think there's going to
man.
be a lot of fingers pointed at, of course, the mustachioed one, Jake Moody, for kicking low on the
Mhm.
extra point. I think rightfully so. Shanahan is the head guy. There's going to be some question marks. There's going to be some stuff that he's got to take for being the lead guy. Though I think I thought it was interesting that it looked like Wilkes was going to call another blitz, and Shanahan called a timeout. He's like, "Nope, we're not calling this blitz right
We're
now."
not doing that again. We're not doing that again. And with that with that highlighted to me is I've never questioned Kyle Shanahan's play calling and offensive acumen. But there were times early on, especially where if you wanted to, that was what I would always say is you're crazy if you're questioning this guy's offensive acumen. But if you want to question his game managing, um, that's a conversation
Sure,
that we can have.
sure.
That's legit. But he has gotten a lot better with that, and that was a highlight for him
Yeah.
that he wasn't so. And I had heard people say in the past that he's so deep into his play sheet that the other aspects of running the game sometimes, rather than managing the team, he's worried about his next set of plays that he's going to call, which is that is the quandary when you
Yes.
have your head when the head man is the play caller.
There was a moment where the Niners were clearly flustered on defense. It may have been Burks and Ryan. They're kind of running to a spot and they're switching spots and they're switching back again. And I was like, if Kyle wasn't worried so much about keeping the timeouts for his offense, he would have called the timeout because there was clear confusion on the defense. And I think, I don't know, I don't remember the exact play that happened, but it was, they picked up yardage. And I was like, of course they did, because the defense was completely confused about what was going on. So, I think, the one thing, and this just sucks because Dre has been dealing with this Achilles stuff all game long or all season long, is does Kelsey get off the way that he does if you have all three of your linebackers playing? That is a question, because he didn't do anything in the first half. And the second they had Oren Burks in there, then Kelsey started moving and shaking. And then you started to see Kelsey and Fred, they were like putting Fred on him one-on-one. And, Fred did a good job. I think it caused Fred to be out of position on other stuff. There was a late in that last drive to win the game. Mahomes drops back and basically does a quasi quarterback draw, and Fred has full sight on taking this brother's head off. and he took the wrong route and he missed him, and Patrick got 15 yards or whatever that was. So, there was stuff like that to where you go, man, that's just those, Curtis Blow game. These are the breaks, and that was the
Yeah, my
breaks. And I
brother
hope,
was a my brother was a linebacker, and he was watching that matchup, and he's he acknowledges that Fred Warner is a monster, but even in that, he's like him one-on-one with Travis Kelce is that's not where you want to be. You really don't. That it's a tough cover, and he got beat, but then he came back, and on that one in the end zone, he defended it well. But it's just like you say, you're at the bottom of a barrel if that is the matchup that you are, because Fred is just so important overall.
yeah.
To put him in that spot, it's just tough. It's tough for the defense.
If the ball doesn't go to Kelce, somebody else has to make a play. And you take Fred out of that playmaking opportunity. Fred did have, I think he led the team with like 13 tackles or something. So he did, he was in the mix, but there were also moments where he was not in the mix, and they needed him to make a play. And that was, again, we're talking about the strategy aspect of this. That's the, that's the X's and O's. That's the chess matchup stuff. That's why these coaches and these coordinators, during football season, they're not really home, right? Because
I guess it doesn't
that stuff.
It doesn't matter. The what ifs really don't matter. But if Dre doesn't go out, how does that affect the game?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's a big thing. It's probably going to be a little underreported because you want to blame the rookie kicker, and you want to give all the praise to Mahomes, who deserves every bit of it. Him and Andy Reid together are magic. They're Montana and Walsh is who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like that's where at the end of the day, when I watch this game, I go, you know what? That dude beat us, and I can live with that. Like I told my wife, because we weren't going to really have a big thing, but like I said on last night's show, my stepdaughter gets into it. My stepsons, all of a sudden, they want to invite some friends. My sister, who lives in Arizona, her and her husband and their kids, I didn't know that they were going to be in town, but all of a sudden, come the weekend, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be in town. You're going to watch the game. I was like, yeah, we're going to watch the game. And so all of a sudden, my son, who just got back from London, he was here, his buddy was. So all of a sudden, we kind of had like a big party. And I told her, I was like, at the end of the day, like, I'm going to remember this loss because we just talk about this stuff. But like when you're hanging with your family and you're with friends and everybody's there and you're watching and people are having fun, and like, I can't stew in that, like I'm hurting just like everybody else from the perspective of I'm just such a hardcore fan. But I had a blast. I absolutely had a blast, and it just didn't turn out our way. Okay, let's go down the game a little bit. I want to talk about some of the scoring plays. I want to talk about the moments maybe where you would have felt this or that. Niners are up 10-0 heading into the end of the first half. And the Chiefs come down and they finally have a successful drive, which ends in a Harrison Butker 28-yard field goal. So Niners are up 10-3 at the half. And you just said that you were not comfortable with 10-0, let alone 10-3. I thought, and in the back of my mind, this is not something that you want to say out loud because you kind of like, you're the bearer of bad news. But Mark Jones, who is the Sacramento Kings play-by-play man, he uses this saying in basketball games a lot. Oh, he overuses it. He calls it playing with their food. Like, the team has got like a nice 3-on-1 break, and then someone throws an alley-oop into the stands. It's like they're playing with their food. They should have just fundamentally just did what was correct. I thought the Niners were playing with their food in the first half. They had so many opportunities to break this game open a little bit. And when they didn't, and when they only had the 10 points, in the back of my mind, I was saying, this is going to bite us. And I don't want it to bite us, but it is going to bite us. Did you feel the same way?
It was, you just talked about Mark Jones. I felt the same way using a basketball analogy that I just felt like we couldn't afford many empty trips.
Mm-hmm.
And we had several of them. We had several opportunities. And again, it did, even at the time, it didn't, I don't know. I don't know why it didn't feel as bad, but it's like, Chris McCaffrey is not somebody who puts the ball on the ground. So when
No.
he does it, it's not like, like, oh my God, he, is me. Well, I guess that just kind of happens. You just kind of, dims the brakes, I guess. But
And they gave it back to us, so you're kind of like, okay, we're even.
right. So
Like
it's a wash.
it's a wash.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely felt that we gave away at least 10 points. It was, and that just changed the game, because like you said, we'll get there eventually, because I think one point, literally ended up changing the game. So those other ones that you leave on the floor, again, another basketball analogy is that I used to always, it used to always frustrate me when people would talk about, well, he missed that free throw in the fourth quarter and he lost the game. Well, we missed 10 in the first half. That how is that one in the fourth quarter more important than the other 10 that we missed in the in the first and second quarter?
Yeah.
They aren't. Those points would have counted the same.
Come on,
So
Shaq.
and that
Even
was,
Shaq always
yeah,
says, I made them.
exactly.
I made them when they counted. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you made the other ones. You didn't have to make those ones that counted.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that. Oh, and I hadn't really thought about how, because that was really, when everybody saw it, when Dre comes up lame, that was really like kind of a gut punch for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was because we talk about it on this show in a way that I don't hear many other people talking about it, how he is like the emotional battery for this team.
He
And,
was on fire today, just pumping
it,
these dudes up.
and that is not to take away from what he actually brings as a player.
Yeah.
But the emotional component, I don't think, can be understated. And it's just, and the facts are, you go from him to Odom, it's just a huge downgrade. So yeah, I was definitely, as we talked about, I was not feeling comfortable with where we stood at halftime. But I wasn't like depressed or didn't think we couldn't win, but I wished the lead was I wish the lead was bigger. That's all. I
Yeah.
really wished it was bigger.
Yeah. Now, if they added another field goal or another touchdown, then you're not as worried, because that is 3 scores versus, a touchdown is 3 scores, a field goal is
Mm-hmm.
still 2 scores. But, that does change your outlook a little bit. Um, I you know, I was fired up for Usher. I know you said you closed your eyes a little bit for Usher,
Mm-hmm.
but these long Super Bowl halftime shows, like if you're the Niners, you're like, okay, let's get right back out there, because we don't want the Chiefs to all of a sudden have all of this time to sort of create, whatever the second half game plan is, and even have more time for adjustments, because we kind of got them a little bit on their heels. But that was in the back of my mind as well. I was like, as much as I love Usher, I got to see Luda.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's like 25 years old or younger, they're like, "Oh, that dude from Fast and the Furious, he raps too." Um, and I got to see Alicia Keys, and I've been down with Alicia Keys since Songs in A Minor, like from the beginning. So I love that got to see Lil Jon, got to see Jermaine Dupri, got to see Usher just
Dressed
do
like
all this
Eddie
stuff.
Munster.
I was
got
about
to
to say, I know,
see.
this dude's a pilgrim? What's going on? And so, you know, I rock with Usher. Like, to me, Usher, you know, I'll take Usher over Justin Timberlake every day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's how much I love Usher. But at the same time, as Usher was doing his thing, I'm like, oh man, Andy Reid, he's got so much time to figure this thing out. Kind of like the 49ers in the Ravens Super Bowl. They even had more time to sort of figure things out, to create a game plan to come back because of the blackout and everything. So as much as I loved it, I was worried because I'm like, okay, this is like an hour for these guys to coach them up, to figure out what the game plan is. So second half starts. Niners, they stop, or did they stop them? Because the Chiefs got
they
the
did.
ball. They stopped them.
And
They got stopped, and then Chiefs kick a field goal. Niners get stopped, and then with 2:28 left in the third, Mahomes finally shakes loose with Valdez Scantling for a touchdown, and the Chiefs take their first lead of the ball game with 2:28 left in the first half. And this is where I was worried. The game 4 years ago, it was going to be a duplicate of that game. It's like, oh, they took the lead. Now they're just going to boat race us. Like, that was a worry. I thought, you know, the defense is still playing good enough to where that may not happen. So I was okay, but I was like, this offense needs to fight back because they need to answer this touchdown. And they come back next drive. Juwan Jennings and the Niners retake the lead. At this point, this is where we get the Jake Moody blocked extra point. Now, I don't know. I'm not a kicking fanatic. I think that when you have a short yardage field goal, the only way this thing gets blocked from the middle is if you just kick it too low. And that's got to be what happened, right? He just kicked it.
Well, Romo said he kicked it off his ankle. I mean, it was just a miss.
Because it's not like the block came from the side where somebody, you know, laid out and tipped it. He kicked it right into the dude's hands. It looks like it didn't even look like anybody jumped any higher than they did. So, you know, after he kicks the 55-yarder to start off the scoring, and then he misses this extra point. It is that was kind of like another one of those signs where you're just like, we cannot beat this dude and make mistakes. You just can't do it because you know that Pat's going to come back and you're just leaving money on the table. And
the difference between 3 and 4 is massive. I mean, the difference between us being up did that put us?
We were up 3.
We were up 3.
16-13.
And if we're up 4, I mean, that's just. I know in gaming parlance, that's a huge number.
We're up, and the Chiefs probably go for it instead of kick a field goal to tie it. And now whether or not they get it, they may get it because they were doing okay at that point. But that does change the trajectory of what the Chiefs actually have to do. So they were able to take the 3. They tie the game. Niners go down the field, and another. I think it was also 3rd and 4. It may not have been 3rd and 4, but it was definitely another 3rd down. And they just brought the house at Brock, and they were not ready for it. Brock barely got the throw off, and the Niners had to settle for a field goal. That was another one of those moments where I was like, gosh, Shanahan's got to know that this blitz is coming. And they did not look like they were ready for it at all, unfortunately. So they take
I thought Tony Romo had a very good game, and that was one of those ones where he talked about tendencies of a play caller. The alignment did not look like it was a blitz formation, but you know, like Romo said, you just have to know the tendencies of Steve Spagnuolo, and there was no way that he wasn't bringing pressure in that spot. So, like you say, as you know, Kyle has to be ready to and Brock has to tell Brock that even if it doesn't look like a blitz, best believe that once the ball is snapped, is going to be a blitz.
Because
yeah.
the flip side is they're just going to let this dude sit back and pick his spot to get the couple of yards that they needed. And there's no way that's not how
That
they
would be
played that second half
completely
at all.
that would be and it would be completely out of character for this dude who's been, a play caller, for 15 years. I mean, that's just not his reputation. He's built his reputation on pressure. So to think that in a big spot like that he would lay back, it's just it wasn't going to happen. Regardless of how it looked, it wasn't going to happen. It was eventually going to come. It was going to be a pressure front, and it was.
So the Niners come back down. I think they have almost 4 minutes left. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's there's 5.5 minutes left, and so they score. So it's it's 19-16. So they leave the Chiefs 3:53, and I know everybody and their mama was like, "That is too much time." This dude has almost 4 minutes to figure things out. Of course, they go all the way down the field, 64 yards. We keep them out of the end zone. So we end with a 19-19 tie. Now, at this point, we go to overtime. Were you 100% sure what the overtime rules were? Because I was not. I was not exactly sure what this meant.
I had to Google them. So no, I was not. I was not.
I had one of the twins' friends was over, and he was explaining the rules to me, and I was like, "Okay, I'm glad you're here because the announcer sure as hell did not explain it in this way." I guess the only thing that I didn't really realize is even if you had the ball first, if the defense was able to get a turnover and then the team scores, then that's ball game. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
I didn't know that. I definitely did not know that. Yeah. I knew that there was, I remember because of, they changed the rule because of the Patrick Mahomes, 13 seconds or whatever versus Buffalo, that both teams had to possess the ball, but I didn't know anything beyond that. And
old school rules. Niners Super Bowl champions, man. That's how I'm remembering this game. They had to change the overtime rules to get us out of winning 6. Exactly. That's how much they didn't want us to win 6.
Exactly.
Okay, so the Niners, they get a little bit of a gift because there was a holding call on Jennings. It was damn near tackle. They tackled our guy, and the Niners extend their downs, but and then they do kick a field goal. But even before that, what did you think about the Niners taking the ball? I didn't even think about the strategy piece of it because I was like confused about the rules. But as I started to think about it, I was like, I wonder if Kyle would do that again and if he would actually defer. But maybe he wanted to give his defense a rest because those guys were out there for so long in that second half.
Well, the only thing that was odd to me is that it seemed like it went against his normal tendency. It seemed like he always defers.
Right.
And so I just assumed that he would because he always does.
I thought maybe he thought the old school overtime rules. Of course, we're going to take the ball. I was like, okay, I trust Kyle here because I'm not exactly sure what the strategy is.
Yeah. So that was definitely odd.
Yeah. So they take it, and we know what happens after that. They have the freedom, like you had said, to just kick the field goal if they wanted to. So they had so many more options. This wasn't getting shotgun and have 4 wideouts and we're just spreading the field because we got to score a touchdown. This was they could run their normal offense. And I was just telling people, like, I hope the Niners are ready for Mahomes to run for a lot of this series. And they were not, because he was so free in some of these plays, almost as if the Niners had never seen these plays before. And we talked about this during the whole season, in that we're kind of scared a little bit when the Niners would play a quarterback who could actually get out and run. Now, Patrick Mahomes is not fast. He's just smart. we were worried about how Jalen Hurts would get out, and thankfully the Niners did a good job with Hurts. We're worried about Lamar Jackson. They did not do a good job at Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes was the most effective runner they played all year, and this dude is slow as molasses, but he is so smart in setting up his run and knowing that in the back of his pocket, he has this thing called a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, just in case he slides. And he dekes these guys into thinking that he's going to slide. So they hold up and he keeps running. And I was like, man, this dude is so smart with this stuff. And he extended these drives with these. I'm thinking like, I can catch this guy. Why are these guys not able to catch him? And like I said, Fred took a bad route. I think the guys were just thinking like, okay, if I step up, the second I do, he's going to fire it off and into my guy, and I'm going to be screwed. But some of this was after he passed the line of scrimmage, and these guys were still holding on to their men. And I was just like, man, they were not ready for Pat to skate to scoot like that. So okay. So the last play of this game, this play.
It's a wonderful design. It's a wonderful design.
I so badly. I just wanted to blame. Was that Logan Ryan on Who's the Closest Man? Was that who it was? I think it was Logan Ryan. I so wanted to just go, of course it's Logan Ryan. What a bum, blah, 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 blah. And then I actually saw the play where Mooney is the outside man. Travis Kelce baits Mooney into coming inside. Travis Kelce didn't even run. Like, he kind of like walked into the end zone. But they were so worried about him. And Mecole Hardman, Jet McKinnon, and Mecole Hardman made plays on the last drive. Those guys weren't even in the game for the most part of it. Mecole Hardman is just running free because everyone goes to Kelce, and Logan Ryan is the guy who's like kind of the closest near him. And it's just no one is anywhere close to Mecole Hardman. Honestly, Mahomes could have also just bootlegged right and probably scored. That's how open that whole area was.
It was so beautiful how Mecole Hardman dekes inside. And that's why he's out there by himself, because he declared that he's going across, but then he comes back and everybody, like you said, as Tony Romo, again, he had a wonderful call. He's like, once Mecole Hardman goes inside, Kelce, that's Mooney's man. He has to take him. So he vacates. And once he vacates, that's it. It's a wrap. There's nobody there. And like you say, so at that point, he could go in there. Mahomes could run it in. I mean, it was just a beautiful design. It was just a beautiful design. And yeah, I mean, that was game.
Yeah, that was Mahomes's game blouses moment. Like,
that's it. That's it.
That's what it was. So Shelvin said that Shanahan said to kick a field goal and hold them to a field goal, and then they have a chance to win it. That was the mentality. I mean, I'm glad that he had that faith in the defense, because Tony Romo, you mentioned Romo, and I thought he had some good comments as well. Tony Romo said maybe even on 4th and 4, you go for it to get the touchdown, because you're going to need 7 to beat these guys. And at the time, I was just hoping and praying that they got a score, but he ultimately was right that they needed 7 and not 3, because you're not holding this dude out of the end zone. And that's ultimately what happened.
And I mean, I know, Moody made a couple of big kicks, but I mean, it's just a different feeling. I didn't have any question that Butker was going to make his kicks, but I was white knuckling every one of Jake Moody's kicks. And you know how our fans do on Facebook when he makes a couple, and then all of a sudden, oh, what are you guys talking trash about? And it's like, and I'm not trying to be a hater, but I mean, it's like, dude, we still got a whole nother half of football. It's very still, I mean, it's not like a miss is, out of the question now. And sure as shit, it rears its ugly head. I mean, he'd missed a kick in 3 straight games. So I mean, it's not like we're like hating on Jake Moody that it's like he's been like excellent, but we're just like fear mongering or something. Coming into the game, being concerned about him, missing a kick. I mean, I think that was a legitimate concern. I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, so it's like I would not have. I'm not a big second guesser anyway, but if he goes for it on 4th down, and is, really aggressively goes for the touchdown and eschews the field goal, I'm not mad at him at all. I mean, I think that might have been appropriate. We ended up losing anyway, but if you want to, Dan Campbell took shit for, deciding that he was going to win the game. It was what he said all along, is that we came to win. And, you can't, and I see that a lot in our fan base. If he's conservative, we shit on him for being conservative. If he's aggressive, we shit on him for being aggressive. Why didn't you run the ball? When you run the ball, why didn't you let Brock cook? I mean, it's so he's in a no-win situation, but I definitely had that feeling. I don't know if you did, but I definitely had the feeling that we needed a touchdown there.
Yeah.
That a field goal was not, so I don't agree with him there. That whole thing about we're gonna exchange field goals. I think you gotta,
I think essentially what he was hoping for was that when the game turns to sudden death, he wanted the ball first.
Yeah, I get that, and he's probably right. He's probably right. We're gonna kill him either way. If he didn't, so he should have deferred. And if he had a deferred, well, why weren't you aggressive in trying to win the game?
Exactly. So. You're not. I don't know if you're going to laugh at this or if you're going to be pissed off at this, but Eric Armstead said it was a surprise to him about the overtime playoff rules.
Man, he's a defensive lineman. What does he care?
I mean, can you imagine when Moody kicks that field goal, Armstead's running around thinking they won the Super Bowl?
He's like, yes, that's what we won. He's like, oh, yeah. That would have been awesome if they got that on camera.
Oh, man. So that was the game. And again, is this one of those where you just tip your hat to this dude? Like, now I know what the Cincinnati Bengals felt like when Montana beat them. I absolutely know what their fans feel like.
Wonderful. That is a wonderful comparison. I hadn't thought about that, but you are so right. To be on the other end of,
greatness.
What at that, and again, it is a very good analogy because we were, Joe was making his legend, in real time then. I mean, it wasn't, those, especially against the Cincinnati Bengals, he got his, what was it? It was
first and third rings was
first, third. That's right, man. That was, that is, I don't know, we've sussed out that we've got a lot of young fans. I tell you what, guys, if you can find it, there is a NFL Films like segment on the drive from Sam Weich's standpoint.
Oh yeah.
And he was here. He was a Walsh assistant and knew the offense and was like basically calling the plays. He knew what they were going to run. And it was like a reverse John Gruden. They were powerless to stop it. Whereas
it was like
the Raiders knew exactly.
Doom.
It really was. And it is just, it's a wonderful thing because it's kind of mean, but it was like he was helpless. to
Yeah.
stop it. He knew exactly what that 49er offense was going to do, but they were just powerless to stop it, and it's just that's got to be a sickening feeling.
For the youngsters, I know Davis. Davis earlier in the chat, he said he couldn't really hang out that much, but he had. I think he's. I think he's in his like early 30s. So when the Niners won in '94, he was like barely born or something like
Hmm.
that. And my youngest said, "I've watched 3 Super Bowls and they've lost all 3." And I thought about that. And I was
It
like,
is such a different
"Whoa, that
experience.
is crazy."
He has had such a different experience than we had.
But you
That's
know
like
what?
he's had like a bizarro world
Yeah.
experience from what we had.
But he also has 3 Warriors titles, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. So at least he got that. And he got 3 Giants World Series championships in his lifetime too. So it's a little bit of like a spoiled thing. But yeah, there are people who
Mhm.
who did not see the 5 like we were able to see the 5. And those are the people who I feel for you guys right now. And like Shelvin's daughters, he was saying in our Discord that they've only experienced Super Bowl losses. They've never experienced the Super Bowl wins. So I feel for those of you who have had to deal with that. And look, man, it almost feels like at the end of this game, my first thought was, how are we going to go through this all over again next year? Last year we had the NFC title game. This year we had the Super Bowl game. Next year, like, who knows? Like, it's so hard to get back there again. Can we go through it again? Do we want to go through it again? Are they gonna, could the injury luck change and all of a sudden, maybe they're not even as good as they were? Like, those are the questions that you come out of a game like this, and that's why it's so hard to see how this game ended, because then you look forward to next year and you go, Nothing is certain." They're like, who know, like, this was a great opportunity, and hopefully, you know, I'm hopeful that next year we are just as good. We get back there again. Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce decides to retire because he wants to be a house husband. Like, I'm hopeful that all of those things happen and the Niners can get back, but it's not certain. It's not 100%. And so that's kind of that's probably the biggest thing about losing this game, is you were just on the cusp, got taken away from you, and you have no idea when you're getting back.
That's funny you mentioned Travis Kelce retiring, because I was thinking about that in terms of, there's a Dave Chappelle skit where he gets Oprah pregnant, and he quits his job because now he his baby mama is a billionaire, so he don't have to screw this job. Yeah, Travis Kelce definitely. If I don't know if he actually proposed to her, but yeah, I mean, if you're like, he'd be like Tom Brady with, he's got a super waddle wife that, that's why Tom Brady could take those those lower contracts, is because his wife was making more money than he was.
I told the twins, I said, why does Taylor want to get married to him? She's gonna take a pay cut. She wants to
I
take a
know,
pay
right?
cut to give him half.
Exactly. Yes, Travis, let's just be friends.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's hang out. Let's see.
Yeah.
We got to figure this thing out. Do you see Travis was going wild after the game too? He was singing "Viva Las Vegas." I don't know. I think those Kelsey brothers get a little bit of a pass for being knuckleheads, but
Did you see him almost knock out Andy Reid?
my God, what's going on? Can you imagine if that was Draymond? Imagine if Draymond did that to Kerr. There would be people who were saying, you
He
need to
should
get
be
Draymond
thrown
out
out
of
the
the
game
league.
right now. He
Yes.
should be, the Chiefs should, I mean, the Warriors should to suspend him mid game. If
Exactly.
that was the case. Yeah, but like you say, they get a
They
pass.
get a pass. They get a pass. All right. We're going to figure out what our schedule is in the off season. We probably need a little bit of a break after this one, but I don't know. I just have fun talking about this stuff with you. So
Player of the game, Patrick Mahomes. Sorry.
yeah, no, he's it. Look, if the Niners won, it was going to be JJ, right? If the Niners
Yeah, had
won,
to be.
had to be
Had to
JJ.
be.
On the defensive end,
Or shout out to my man with Conley, the wide receiver for 84. He had a hell of a game too.
yeah. See, he threw like a pro wrestling clothesline on my guy on that tackle.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Romo said Hulkamania. He didn't know that Hulk Hogan got canceled,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, you
he
can't
went
do
for
that.
Hulkamania. All right, so yeah, we'll figure out when we are next recording. I know people are going to be like probably like need a little bit of a break themselves because we had it. You know, we started this thing. You know, these dudes is playing football games in September. We went all the way to February 11th every week with a show, and sometimes we had 2 shows a week. So I appreciate you. I want to say thank you to Rod for being here every single time.
My pleasure.
We even got to see each other in person at a game this year, and we got to do that a little bit more. And yeah, man, this has been a blast. And we'll figure out when we come back. But this is a well-deserved small break for us, and then we will recoup and figure out what's the next thing. Like I don't even know what the next dates are. You know, there's a draft coming up in April, and there's
Free
free
agency.
agency and stuff, and we'll figure out what coaches leave that they're not going to have with
Mhm.
them because of other people picking them up for their staffs and all this stuff. So there will be news, and
Are
we'll
they going
figure.
to ship Cam Wilkes? I mean, it's going to be the news will start to flow. No, sooner than we know, and I think a lot of that will inform what we do. As news becomes,
Yep.
as it happens, we'll obviously want to respond to it. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And if Robbie Gold decides that he wants back in.
I think we welcome with open arms at this
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. All right. Thank you to everybody for hanging out with us during this football season. It's been a blast. I've learned more about football just talking about it with Rod and just focusing on it more so than I've had these last 2 years, and wanting to learn more about it and wanting to watch it a little bit more closely. So I'm digging it, and yeah, just appreciate everybody for hanging out with us this year. It was a great damn season, and they came ever so close. It was there. It was so close we could have tasted it, but it didn't happen. And that, like you said, like I said, like Curtis Blow said, these are the breaks.
They're the
So
breaks.
for one last time in this 2023-24 NFL season, we will say good night. For Rod, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.